Ask that everyone who's able, please stand for both.
Most gracious Heavenly Father, be with us tonight as we conduct business for Effingham County and its citizens. Help us to make the right choices for the county and for the citizens. Be with our servicemen and women and first responders that keep us safe. Be with our elected officials and help them to make decisions that's in the best interest of its citizenry. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
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 I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Zipper. Ms. Teresa, are there any items we need to add or delete from our agenda?
Yes, number 7 has been withdrawn.
All right, withdrawn. Anything further?
That's it.
So that's item 7. That's a public hearing for Katie McGrory Brown, and that item has been withdrawn. I call for a motion to approve this agenda with the noted change.
Make motion to approve.
Motion for approval, is there a second?
Second.
Second, all those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried by all. Minutes from March 21st, any corrections or additions? Call for a motion to approve these minutes.
Make a motion to approve.
Motion for approval, is there a second?
A second.
Second, Mr. Thompson. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried by all. Tonight, under new business, all items presented tonight we presented again at our future Board of Commissioners meeting. That meeting is also a public hearing. Items which are approved as well as denied will move forward to the commissioners. I'd like to ask that everyone who wishes to speak when the item of your concern is called, that you would come forward to the podium, that you would state your name as well as sign your name for the record. Item number 1 is a public hearing for Braley Investments as agent for the estate of Robert North. Request to rezone 85 plus or minus acres from R1 to R6 to allow for the future development of a residential subdivision located on Zitrow Road. This is the 1st district. Is there a representative for Braley Investments? Good evening, sir.
Good afternoon. I'm Alec Metzger with EMC Engineering. I'll be representing Braley Investments. I'll go ahead and, since it's on here for rezoning and sketch plan, I'll just kind of briefly overview it all, and then we can discuss it more and ask questions. So what we're looking to do is take 85 acres, rezone it from R1 to R6. This will yield about 97 lots. These will be typical 60 by 142 feet and be 8,500 square foot lots per the new R6 regulations. The density on this tract will be 1.14 units per total acre and 1.74 units per buildable acre. So that's a good bit less than the 4.5 that we could get maximum per the ordinance. Water and sewer will be Effingham County. It exists along State Route 30 right now. It'll have to be extended about 2,000 feet to the entrance to this subdivision. We briefly checked the capacity last week. We went out and did a couple of tests, looked at some maps. It appears to be a 16-inch water main and a 6-inch force main. This development will have its own pump station that'll tie into that, and it appears to be have some available capacity for it all to work. We'll have to do some further studies once we get into engineering design, but our initial calculations show it should work. We have a 20-foot buffer around the property shown. We're required to have 15% common open area per the revised ordinance. We have 15.4% provided. In this will be a playground, grass play field, park, a picnic pavilion. There are some wetlands on this property, so taking all of the green space, common areas, wetlands, buffers, about 63% of the property will be green space. Sidewalks will be provided as well as street lights. The streets are proposed to be public right of way for Effingham County. That's about it. We'd like you to consider rezoning the property and be glad to answer any questions.
All right, thank you, Mr. Metzger. Questions or comments from the board at this time? I know the county adopted a new R6 zoning. This meets all the new requirements.
Yeah, it used to be, so R6 was 6 units per acre, maximum density. So that was changed, I think, to 4.5. So we're at 1.7, so we're below that. The square footage on the lot was 6,000, now it's 8,500 square feet, so we meet that also. And then some of the common open area space requirements changed to 15%, and that's what we provide. And we're also have county water and sewer available.
I guess that's my only question about the water and sewer. So the initial studies look like they'll be able to utilize the existing system, since it is part of the zoning requirements to be able to have the county water and sewer.
Yeah.
Any further questions, comments at this time? Thank you, Mr. Metzger. We may have some more questions for you in a moment. Ms. Teresa, do you have anything you'd like to?
Just a few more things. Mr. Metzger covered almost everything that I've got. There's a total of, the parking spaces there's 3 per property, 1 in the garage, 2 in the driveway, and an additional 20 spots throughout the development at amenity sites. That would be a total of 311 parking spots for the neighborhood. Just wanted to point that out. Also, there's 2 entrances onto Zitrauer Road. So it's a fairly low-density subdivision proposed with good access to the adjacent road. But he covered everything else.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak either in favor or against this request? Yes, sir. Good evening.
Hey, how are y'all?
Good, sir.
I'm Stanley Carter. I live at 330 Old Oak Road, and it butts up against this property. And I've lived here 32, 33 years, and it's coming up against it. The main thing I see with it being built is the water draining off. If they build that property up, it's gonna flood everybody else out. Water sits in there at least 4 or 5 months out of the year. I mean, and you're talking about 4, 6 to 8 foot deep with a creek running all the way behind it. So it can't, I mean, it would have to be built way up. And like I said, it's gonna flood us out. I mean, the roads can't handle the capacity. We can't get the roads fixed as it is now. I mean, there's humps in it, bumps in it. I mean, if you've been down there, you would know. The schools, they can't handle it. It's too far out of the capacity to handle it. The traffic in the mornings, the traffic in the afternoons, it's gonna greatly, I mean, just growth. You know, we already have to wait 20, 30 minutes in line to get into the schools as well now, in the mornings and in the afternoons. As far as the treatment plants and stuff like that goes, the treatment plants and all that at the capacity that they are in Effingham County, I've known for a long time, but it won't hold it either. We can barely hold what we got now, even out in the county, everywhere. So if you add that, you're gonna have to add another treatment plant somewhere local, not from the courthouse road, but somewhere else. So it's gonna have to be within the vicinity of our property. So there again, we're, you know, we have the smell, we have everything else coming over to our property. You know, so I just don't see how it's gonna work. I don't. I mean, I really don't. I mean, we can't, it's, the land right there is basically in the swamp. The whole thing is in the swamp. You know, this, and like, you can go back there right now and it's 4 foot deep in water, you know? And that's my only concern, is it flooding us out. The residents are around it, and it's gonna push us out and push us to sell.
Could you tell me again where you live?
330 Old Oak.
On Old Oak?
Yes, sir.
Gotcha. So you live back there in the back where the, adjacent to it, I see a little pond or something back there?
Yes, sir.
Okay, sir. All right, sir. Well, thank you for your comments. We'll let Mr. Metzger address the drainage. Yes, sir.
Name's Randy Caldwell, 264 Redmond Road. My land butts up to the bottom part where he's wanting to put that road through the swamp. And my land is actually part of that swamp. And my concern is basically the same. When he puts that road through there, it's gonna make my land more of a swamp. The way this land drains, it drains to there, that swamp. I've lived there 30 years, and you can look at where it goes. And when he starts messing with that, it's gonna flood us back. I don't really see the risk of messing with that wetland for what he's getting. He's getting it pretty good with the ponds back there, but he's just covering that. How are we gonna get our land drained? You know, that's one of my big concerns. Do you see where I'm talking about, my land?
Yes, yes, I see where that wetland runs out on yours, Randy and Amy Caldwell, right
Yeah.
there? Yes, sir. In a moment, we'll give Mr. Metzger, an opportunity to come back up here and explain to us, how he's gonna handle the water and where it's gonna go.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Caldwell. Is there anyone else? Yes, sir.
I'm Jess Longshore, and I live at 1311 Zit Tower, and I've got the same concerns, the flooding and also the road condition on Zit Tower Road. The traffic that it'll cause with the road in the present condition, it'll be gone in 2 years. It's like a roller coaster through there now. There's no maintenance that's really been done on it in the last couple of years. That and the flooding is the major issue. The ponds he's showing are retention ponds to hold runoff water on the proposed development, and it's not gonna hold it.
All right, so we're gonna let him address that drainage issue in just a moment. Explain.
What about the road conditions?
Unfortunately, that's probably something you're gonna have to address at the county commissioners meeting when you get in front of them.
Well, it has to be addressed at this point. Because of the proposed development that's going in there.
Our staff has looked at the road and said the road will handle this traffic.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, yes, ma'am.
I'm short. Can y'all hear me? Okay. I'm Sandra Messick, and I'm at 1297 Zitrower Road, right next to this development, proposed development. I'm on the very corner there. There's a ditch separating my property and this property. One, I want to know what's going to happen to that ditch. Is it going to stay? Because when we get good rain, it gets good water in it. But y'all had said y'all going to have him address the drainage, so I'm okay with that. But I personally, when my husband and I moved out there, he's gone now, but when we moved out there in 1993, we moved there because of the expanse of land. We moved from Chatham County because it was getting so crowded. And we had asked Mr. North at least a dozen times over the time we've been there, could we buy the property right next to us so that this would not happen when Mr. North was gone? Or at least it wouldn't be right right beside our property. And he said, I don't ever want that developed because it's mostly swampland and we don't need to mess with it. He told us that every single time. And it was at least a dozen times that my husband spoke with him. So the family's going to do what the family's going to do, and I understand that it's their property to do what they want. But I personally would rather see it stay as rural as possible instead of bringing so many city lights in there. Because one of the great things of living out there is you get to step outside at night and you can see the stars. You put all those city lights in there, you can quit seeing stars. You're going to quit hearing the crickets and all those critters. I think it takes away the value of life, the quality of life out there if we allow this many homes in this small an area. Okay,
Thank you, Ms. Messick.
thank you.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak?
Hey, I'm Robin White, and I live at 1074 Zitrower. And we're just basically the drainage. Since they built the road and paved the road, water backs up on our side, we are across the street from where the subdivision would be. So a good thunderstorm, we get several inches, a foot of water in our yard now. So, and the natural flow of the water is to go that way, where they're talking, as all these people said. So I just wanted that to be known also. So I'm worried about the water backing on our side also.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak, either in favor or against this request? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Amy Caldwell. I live at 264 Redmond Road. My husband got up here and voiced our concerns about the flooding. I just really have a question to the board. I got a copy of the application that the developer had to complete, and one of the questions is, will the proposed zoning change result in use of the property which could cause an excessive or burdensome use of existing streets, transportation facilities, utilities, or schools? And I'm just curious, what is that threshold for the board? I mean, how is that determined when, your citizens are, expressing their concerns? At what point, what kind of studies are done? I mean, how does that get decided? The answer on the question was, buffers will be provided for adjacent properties. Roadway improvements and county utility extensions will be done to provide for the addition of the development. The development will increase traffic, increase families, and increase school children in local schools. So that's really not an answer to the question of is this going to be an excessive, burdensome use of the streets, transportation facilities, utilities, or schools. So I'm, as a citizen, just curious, what is the threshold? What are the determining factors when you guys are making these decisions?
That's a great question, and thank you. Ms. Teresa, I mean, do you have anything you'd like to say to that question first?
Sure. The property was originally rezoned to R1, which is also a single-family residential zoning district in 2006. So it's been over 15 years. It's been there zoned for residential use. It has not been developed, obviously, to date, and the current proposal is to develop it at a somewhat more intensive, to allow for smaller lots and develop it at somewhat more intensive rate than R1 would have allowed. But as Mr. Metzger pointed out, and which is also in my staff report, the proposed density is, given the amount of wetlands that's shown on the exhibit that's up right now, the proposed density is actually lower than you see even in R1 subdivisions. So all things being equal, there's an extensive acreage. The majority of it, I think he said 60% approx is green space, so wetlands and undeveloped green space. For what it is, it's a fairly low intensity proposal. So getting to your question.
Thank you.
We don't, wanted to put that out there because it has been rezoned for, it's been sitting there zoned R1 for over 15 years. We don't look at the school impacts. We make the agenda available to the Board of Education and the superintendent. And if they have comments, they're free to give them to us, and we will take those into account. We're in frequent contact with the transportation end of the school district to discuss new developments, and they take that into account when they're looking at with the routes, the bus routes. So we are in contact with the school district. We don't take into account their planning. I mean, their planning is done for, they've got their new school plans, and if they see a conflict, they will, they have the opportunity to let us know. We can't look at we don't take their plans into account because we don't have ready access to their plans. We can certainly do that. It's not something the Board of Commissioners or the Planning Board can really legitimately decide based on another entity's plans. We can certainly take that into account. No objection has been raised by them, so no comments have been submitted on this project, so we don't know if there's an objection from them. As for roads, we have a road maintenance schedule. We have a T-Splost in the county now, so I can't say offhand if Zitrow Road is on that, but I can look over at the county engineer, and he's shaking his head. It's not on that list. But that's certainly something to take into account, looking at when the T-Splost is proposed for renewal, to add Zitrow to the road at that time, or to the list at that time. So at this time, we look at the existing zoning, the surrounding zoning, and we look at the availability of water and sewer utilities. And given that in this part of the county, we do have county water and sewer, not immediately accessible, but just down the road, and from a development standpoint, the developers already determined that it might be in their financial interest to go ahead and increase the density and access that water and sewer to make this development work. So if they can make those numbers work, that's on them. And we've made the water and sewer available on Highway 30. So, it's available there, and making it accessible making it connect to the parcels that are up for development is the responsibility then of the developer. So all of these things come into account. For R6 zoning, we look at availability of water and sewer. It's the first thing I look at, actually, because the ordinance is written that way. We have to have access to water and public water and sewer before we can even consider accepting a rezoning application to this, because it is more dense than R1, which could be. And in fact, stepping back, if for some reason water or sewer public water and sewer were not available, the current zoning R1, the proposed zoning R6, they could still build houses there at a lesser density. The state requirements for well and septic are 1 buildable acre, so that's kind of the least dense that you could have under the R districts. Obviously, you could not develop, have 1 house, have 5 houses, have 97 houses. That's the current proposal. So, because it was currently R1 and it was rezoned to that with the expectation of water and sewer being available, and is currently zoned R1 with a proposal to increase that density, we saw not a lot of increase. I mean, you're not going very far from R1 to R6 in this case, simply because the extensive wetlands really limit the amount of development that can happen on this site, and the number of units that can be fit here. And in fact, Mr. Metzger pointed out that the county has recently reduced the density allowed in the R6 zoning. Now, there are no developments that I know of that can get 6 units per acre, gross density. It's just not actually possible. But that actually referred to the lot size. So our lot size has increased from 6,600 to 8,500 square feet. So the boards have listened and have made adjustments where they can and where they see that it's appropriate. And this is really, I think, our first one coming through under the new regulations. And we're gonna see how well that revision worked. Whether it's satisfying all of the concerns that are being raised. But this land is currently zoned for single-family subdivision, and could be developed by right as a single-family residential subdivision, tomorrow. Yes.
So I'm hearing you say that basically, unless the schools throw up a red flag and respond to this proposal, that there's really not any data gathering by the commissioners or by this board to really see what 97 families with 2 or 3 kids apiece are going to do to the transportation, the buses. I mean, that doesn't sound like that's something that's actively sought out
Well, I
when
do-
making these
I'm
determinations.
sorry to cut you off, but I do believe that obviously we're an appointed board here. You know, your county commissioners are elected. Correct me if I'm wrong, but they do have meetings and conversations with the school board and superintendent. To talk about the growth in a growing county. I don't know. Back to my question about the road, that's one, when you get in front of your county commissioner, then you can ask, how often do you meet and how many conversations are you having? The information we get is they are staying in communication with those guys.
Okay, well, thank you.
Believe me, we see your concerns too. We believe in, with the growth and everything the same way it is. It's concerning.
I feel like we get the cart before the horse a lot of times, and we end up with a lot of stuff, a lot of people, and a lot of traffic, and a lot of schools crowded, and classrooms getting, and it just seems like that's coming before the infrastructure, and I don't know how to do it. I don't know what the correct answer is, but. And I'm glad to see the adjustments in the zoning. That's great to help. We want people to come to Effingham County. It's a great place to live. We have great schools. But we also, as citizens that's lived here our whole life, we do want to protect what we have, and continue to enjoy the life that we've had in this county. So I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Colwell. Do you have anyone on?
There's 3 people on, but nobody's raised a hand or anything for.
So they're just listening?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Mr. Metzger, if you would come back up, I think we've got some questions for you. Would you like to go ahead and?
Yeah, I took a few notes, so maybe I'll hit most of them. So as far as roads, as part of this development, we'll have to do a traffic study at some point down the road. That'll specifically study the 2 entrances and the entrance or intersection at State Route 30 and Zip Hour Road. So based on that, that'll dictate, what kind of turning lanes we may need at the entrance to the subdivision, and possibly if we need a turning lane or something at State Route 30. As far as the Zip Hour Road condition, I don't know if it's on the T-Splost or LMIG program, but that's usually something that the county would have on their list to improve. We can definitely find out some more information on that. As far as drainage goes, so this plan, so we had the wetlands delineated, they're shown on the map. We looked at some of the county LiDAR to try to understand, the general direction of which way the water goes. And it appears to go into the wetland area, just like all of the residents said. So what we're required to do is we do a topographic survey, and that shows the elevations of our parcel of land, and we usually take some around the edges and along the roads. And so we look at that, and we can't dam up or stop water that's coming from somebody else's property. And we can't just divert water onto somebody else's property and release it however we want to. So what we have to do is look and calculate and figure out how much runoff there is now when it's woods and wetlands, and then we have to match that rate with our plan by detention ponds and other things to slow it down, hold it and release it, and let it go in the direction it was going now. So as far as that road crossing the wetland, just initial ideas is that's not just gonna be dammed up and a road built across there. It would at least have pipes to allow the water to do exactly what it's doing now. If there's any ditches that's along the side or dump into this property, we'll have to survey those, and we either pick those up or redirect them, so we don't just release water onto neighbors.
If I could interrupt you right there. One of the gentlemen made a comment about the ponds, and if you put a pond there now, it was already gonna be at capacity because it was already wet, it's gonna be full, you aren't gonna be able to put any more water in it. I mean, what is your comment, explanation for that?
So detention is not the depth of the pond. So the water level down is not stormwater detention. Stormwater detention is usually the freeboard in the pond, so it's from the water level up to some other elevation. So there may be, depending on the topography, if it drains that way now, it may be an area that's raised up a little bit, and it has to build up and then go through an outlet device to go out into the wetlands. So you're not trying to count water, the water table and a pond that's wet. So the other thing we have to do is treat water quality, and the wet ponds help treat the water quality and give it time to settle out and release that better quality down through the wetland. And
Mr. Chair, can I ask a question?
You done, Mr. Metzger?
Yeah.
That's all you got? Yes, sir.
The existing right-of-way width on Zero-Hour, you know what that is?
I'm not sure right off the top of my head.
And would the current zoning require the buffer that's adjacent to that road?
I don't think it does. We just went ahead and
The proposed zoning does require it, I think, right? But the existing zoning, would it require that? I'm just trying to understand like what the difference would be there.
You mean between the R1 and R6?
Well, actually for the roadway there, yeah, where it's adjacent to the roadway.
And the roadway being Zit-Rye Road?
Right, yeah,
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah, I think it's actually a 15-foot buffer that's required. We went ahead and showed a 20-foot, so it'll be undisturbed as much as possible.
Yeah, our districts are counted the same, and so if we're looking at the land across the Zit-Rower, let me just go to the zoning. The land across is AR, and so R to AR is 15-foot buffer required. So the 20-foot is,
Or changing zoning doesn't change the buffer width?
no, because the R, it's encompassed within that.
Any further questions, comments? Teresa, do you have anything you wish to add?
And so this is I guess just for the general public also, this is a sketch plan and rezoning. So, we've looked at some, big 30,000-foot big picture type stuff on the sketch plan to try to identify, major stuff like, kind of where does the water go, where's wetlands, where's water and sewer at, the lot size, the density. But, it's a lot left to do. It's a lot of surveying, engineering, design, all that stuff's got to come back through the county and be reviewed by their engineers, the state engineers, the Corps of Engineers. There's a lot of stuff left to do. So this is just, a preliminary plan. So there's rules and procedures in place to make sure all that stuff that we have to follow moving forward. So
after the development is complete, the water that runs out of the wetlands can't exceed the rate that is flowing out today?
yes, sir.
Same rate. And so one lady said she lived on the other side of Zit-Rower and water built up a foot deep in her yard.
Mm-hmm.
If that water naturally flows that way, will provisions be made to keep it flowing that way?
But the best thing is if we can, have a meeting and talk to some of the folks is what we like to do, is go out there and look at it, because they understand, better than anybody what the drainage does. And if there's a problem that we can pick up at the front of our subdivision, what developer wants to build a subdivision that's gonna flood at the entrance of it, you know, that's not gonna be aesthetically pleasing or sell lots. So, I mean, if we know about it and we can build it into the subdivision and pick it up and allow it to go through, then that's what we wanna do.
But I just wanted to make sure we didn't block water that was flowing off of their land onto this land
Right.
naturally.
Yeah, we look at what's coming on also and pick that up.
And I think you made I was just going through my notes. So Ms. Messick said she had a ditch and you would take that ditch into consideration for,
Yeah, we would identify those and survey them when we do our topographic survey.
You also did mention that you will do a traffic study. Do we need to, assuming if we were to make a recommendation, add that as a condition, just so it's clear inside?
I think it was already probably added in there.
A traffic study will be required,
Okay,
yeah.
I just didn't see it as a specific condition listed.
Yeah, we
there,
don't
unless
add
I missed it.
conditions that would be under the sketch plan, and
Got
so at the end, if the sketch plan if the rezoning's approved and the sketch plan's approved, we'd follow that up with a notice to proceed, and we'd include in that everything that's been discussed, and the transportation, the traffic impact assessment, is a standard requirement.
Okay. Okay.
And it's probably something else to note also is, if we moved into the design phase and, the property was more wet or had difficulties or drainage didn't work out, during the design phase, then you start losing lots.
You change the density.
Yes, so you're gonna start taking away to add more ponds or something.
Sure.
So, at that point, then the developer has to decide, is this still economically feasible to do all of this and still develop 10 lots or 20 lots or 97 lots? So, that's all part of it also.
Well, apparently 15 years have already lapsed and nobody's built on it. It was zoned R1 15 years ago and nobody built on it.
Right.
So all he's doing is changing the zoning to see if it's feasible to build on it.
is there anything further? Questions or comments?
I got a comment that I want to say to him, but I need to come up
Yeah, yes, sir, you. All right,
So we're gonna talk about the road going through the swamp, and the builder said he was gonna put, what, pipes and ditches? Is what he kinda
said if
said?
that, I believe,
So who's gonna maintain them? I'm gonna live there all my life, and so is that the county gonna come by and maintain them, or is that somebody he's gonna appoint?
that road will be turned over to the county.
So that'll be a county
And I
digging
guess that's
ditches
your
and.
plan,
Right.
your plan, it'll be a county road.
Okay,
Be gifted to the county.
Yeah, they'll deed it to the county at the end, so it'll become a county road.
Yeah, they put
Okay.
gutters and pipe underground.
and now this water's not a creek, it's the swamp, it sits.
Right.
So running, it probably is not gonna take off running like a creek.
The
So
pipes,
he may have to put pipes down that whole road, I assume?
and he
I
may,
don't know.
and just what his last
Yeah.
comment, he may decide it's not worth it.
Okay,
But I mean, obviously, his pipes will be to maintain the water level on either side of the road, I guess, from
Yeah.
what you're saying.
okay. I mean, it's, once he's done, and then we'll live with it.
Yeah, I
Is-
understand.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you, Mr. Caldwell. Yes, sir, very briefly.
All right, so basically they're saying when they build it, the drain off and all that, the county's gonna maintain it. The county can't maintain its own stuff now. That road cost me $10,000 less than 4 months ago when I hit my oil pan on the Zitrower Road and busted it. 10 grand. Are you gonna pay for it? Is the county gonna pay for it? How many subdivisions in this county are built in the swamp? Y'all asking for more money, so, oh, give me more money, more taxes to fix these problems that somebody else agreed on. People use common sense. I mean, you can't keep building here. You can't keep putting houses in the swamp and expect us to take it. It's stupid. It don't make sense. How many houses are sitting right now in subdivisions underwater? How many? Because the county approved it.
I can't answer that. I mean, all
I know, but nobody can. Who can answer it for me?
well, I mean, all we can do is trust our educated officials and
Well,
and
they
engineers.
they're not educated, bud. I can tell you that, because nobody's doing anything about it. These roads are messed up. We're constantly paying taxes. I pay $4,000-something a year in taxes for y'all to do y'all's job, and you're not doing it. You're not doing anything for the people. Nothing.
Do you know your county commissioner?
Yeah, Forrest Lloyd.
Okay, well, that's the man you need to talk to.
That's
I mean, I'm sorry.
okay.
I'm sorry.
No, it's not
but,
y'all,
you
man.
know,
I'm just
sorry,
tired.
but,
I'm just
you know,
tired of it, man. We're sick of it. The people in this county are tired of it. We're all sick of it. I mean, that road has like a 3 or 4 foot dip in it. Apparently, nobody up here has been down that road.
I've been done.
You've been down it? So what's your opinion on it? I want to hear your opinion.
I mean, that it needs to be fixed, and I think the county
Okay,
will
but you
put it
just
on
said earlier now that it would hold capacity for people going down it, but it needs to be fixed. Now, who's going to fix it?
But hold on now, I also said that, I mean, I can only trust my educated and engineers. I mean, I'm not one, so I'm gonna trust these gentlemen to make the right decision. I mean, my opinion may not be right.
Okay, all right, now common sense. Now, we're going to use common sense. I know a lot of people don't have it, but if there's a 2-3 foot dip in there, okay? Several, all the way down that road, even Blue Jay Road and all the other roads maintaining around it, that county cannot keep up, but yet you're billing us for it. And you're already asking for drain off, for wastewater and everything else, more money, more money, more money, more money. Okay, well, how about stop approving these subdivisions and swamps, and we won't have this?
So let me very respectfully say, this is we're an appointed board. I mean, we look at ordinances, we take information that's provided to us by people who are qualified, who are educated, and we compile it and we decide whether it meets the county ordinances or not. We don't get to say when the road gets fixed or if the road needs to be fixed. I mean, that's not what we do. I mean, I will encourage everyone here who has a problem or an objection to anything, you need to show up at the meeting where your elected officials are.
Yeah, but
We don't have that authority.
when we do that, it falls on deaf ears in this county. It's been like that for years. I mean, it's going to keep continue. What we need to do is wipe everybody out of this county. Get all these people out that are elected, all the officials gone, and start over.
Well,
Because this county is becoming more and more about profit and making money than it is about the citizens. You're not representing the citizens,
sir, I'm going
period.
to respectfully ask you to keep to this particular project. I mean,
Okay.
I can't help your feelings of the county commissioners. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, it's not y'all, I'm just saying. I'm just saying in general. It's a mess. It needs to be stopped, it needs to be cleaned up.
All right, sir.
You're gonna flood these people out, and us.
Thank you.
That's
for
what you're
your-
gonna do.
Thank you for your time. All right, I'm closing public comment right there. Is there any additional questions, comments from the board? If there's nothing, I'll call for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the rezoning request with the conditions listed, and specifically, I know it's not the condition there, but specifically the traffic study, and if there are improvements to Zitrow, that traffic study addresses what those are. That is a legitimate concern, so.
All right, I have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second. Any discussion on this motion? I mean, so I just want to make sure you're saying that at the county commissioners, before the county commissioners, before final approval, that this road is looked at or the traffic study is
Yeah, the traffic
conducted?
study addresses, I just didn't, since it's not part of the zoning, that, in this condition, I just want to make sure that it's clear. I know this is the next step.
Right.
But since I was making that motion to approve, I just wanted to make sure
I
that's
agree
clear.
with that as well. So I have a motion by Mr. Thompson to approve and a second from Mr. Smith. All those in favor of approval? Any opposed to approval? Motion carried by all. Item 2 is a sketch plan for Braley Investments. It's located on Zitrow Road, Zone R1, proposed zoning R6 is the first district. This is a sketch plan only. It's not open for public comment, and obviously, we have looked at the sketch plan extensively. Are there any further questions or comments about the sketch plan? Ms. Teresa, do you have anything you wish to add to the sketch plan?
No. We will make note if this is approved at the commissioner's level, we would make note in the notice to proceed specifically about the condition. The traffic impact study would be included, but we'll make a note of the need to look at conditions on Zitrow Road.
All right, thank you. Was there anything further from the board? I call for a motion.
I make a motion to approve.
Motion for approval, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried by all. And this is a recommendation to the county commissioners. I mean, this is by no means set in stone. Teresa, you don't have that date for the county commissioners?
The next commissioners meeting, it's the first Monday in May. I think that's the 3rd of May. Yes, we don't include a date because there are times when we have to shift things around. If this were tabled, for example, it wouldn't be on that agenda. But in this case, we expect to place it on the agenda for the
May
next.
2nd.
Is it 2nd, really? Oh,
May 2nd?
It's the 3rd.
It is
Okay.
the
May,
third?
May
The
3rd.
the first
May
Tuesday?
3rd.
May 3rd.
First Monday?
First Tuesday.
First Tuesday.
First Tuesday.
So this is scheduled as of now to go before the county commissioners on May the 3rd. Thank you to everyone that spoke. Item 3 is a public hearing. Catalyst Investment Partners LLC as agent for Ernest J. Octagon. Requested variance to reduce required buffers for an industrial property to accommodate a proposed development located on Godly Road, Zone I-1. This is the first district. Is there a representative here tonight for Catalyst Investment Partners? Yes, sir. And once again, following this variance request, there's a sketch plan. So we'll be looking at both of these together, if that's okay.
Yes, sir. Thank you all. For the record, my name is Josh Yellen, here today on behalf of Catalyst Investment Partners, and they are the agent for Mr. Ernest J. Octagon. And if y'all remember, I was here before y'all, maybe about 2 months ago now with this property. This was the one that had a little bit of a unique backstory.
You didn't. He doesn't like you. Wait a minute, it's got to be, hold on, Chris, fix it. Yeah, he's recording these meetings.
Okay.
I'm gonna screw that thing down for the next meeting.
Got some duct tape. Thank you. Very well prepared. So once again, Josh Yellen here today on behalf of Catalyst Development Partners. This property came before y'all a couple months ago. In 2014, Mr. Octagon, the property owner, had this property rezoned to industrial. The surrounding properties and the properties adjacent to it were used in service of surface mine. When we tried to come and get a zoning verification letter from the county, it was confirmed that despite having the first and second reading at county commission, that for whatever reason, the property was not formally rezoned to the industrial district. And so out of an abundance of caution and with the advice of the county attorney, we came back before planning board and county commission to have that tied up so that even though the rezoning happened in 2014, we had it rezoned once again in 2022 to the exact same use that was previously permitted. Now we're coming back before you today. Part of the conditions of that rezoning that we just went through were obviously to come back before you with a sketch plan. And we're here today with both the sketch plan and the variances associated with the proposed use. I did just want to point out a couple of the issues with the site that we're having is that this is a 6-acre site that was previously rezoned. It was rezoned in 2014. Rezoning was confirmed in 2022. We did not create this parcel. We did not subdivide the parcel. The parcel in question, the size of the parcel is what we're looking at. And so when we came in with the plan for the container storage yard, we looked at the required buffers and saw the 300-foot buffer and are asking for a variance from that. And part of the reason that we're asking for the variance is, first, because the surrounding property to us is still used as a surface mine, still used as an industrial use, which, based upon our read of the ordinance, would then require a 25-foot buffer, because it would be the industrial property against an industrial use. Similarly, and equally as important, the surrounding property is property that Catalyst Development or Mr. Achin, that they own. These are not neighboring properties and neighboring owners on the three sides of us. It is property that's under control of this developer if they are to acquire the property. And so when we're looking at what is the intent and point of buffers and setbacks, it was constraining to the site to provide those buffers solely against ourselves. And so that was part of the reason why we came in to ask for this variance request today and for the sketch plan approval. But also part of it is we know that we have this industrial site. We know that we have the 6-acre site. We know that there are limitations on the site. And so even outside of this variance request and outside of the sketch plan request, we are looking for feedback on this unique piece of property, because we know it's zoned industrial. We know that there are uses that can go there. The developer has been trying to find something that can fit on this site. But at this point, you know, it seems that we're every time we make a new plan or a new turn, there's some pushback. So we're trying to get feedback as to what could go here to satisfy all concerns. And so, as I mentioned, we do think this property is a correct use for the site. We think our variances are justified based upon the site conditions and based upon the proximity to the surface mine and the proximity to our surrounding properties. And I'm happy to answer any questions that y'all may have.
All right, thank you, Mr. Yellen. Questions or comments at this time?
Is all the property all the way around it already industrial?
No, the property around it is not industrial in zoning. It may or may not be in use. The property, the light green is AR1, which is our ag residential zoning district. The orange across Godley Road is R4, which is for a mobile home park. And then further up, there is some red. The red is the red at the top there. That is surface mine. This is approved surface mine. The orange is, as you see over here, R4 for mobile home park. It may or may not be currently used for that, but that is the zoning that was approved over time. This blue color here is for B2. There was a proposal at one time to have, I think, a store there. I don't think there's a store there. But the history of this Achin property in our files is that there's been rezonings, many rezonings over the year, and the red, that's the industrial, that's what's approved for surface mines. There have been reconfigurations. Most recently, in the last couple of years, we did a pretty significant rezoning up here to expand this particular pit. So staff have looked at that, and what Mr. Yellen said is absolutely correct. The parcel there was a rezoning that took place in 2014. What didn't happen was that we were never presented with a subdivision plat, so we could not adjust the map because that little rectangle down there with the arrow, that was still part of the parent parcel. It wasn't subdivided until several years later. I think it was 2018. We have on record the subdivision plat, and at that point, what would staff turn over? We didn't go back and change the zoning to finally reflect the industrial zoning of that 6 acres. In the meantime, of course, industrial uses had taken place. There's evidence there in the Chatham County portion of the Achin property that a surface mine was dug. So this 6 acres, I mean, we view it it's an accessory to the adjacent surface mine. And if it were zoned if it were rezoned to industrial for a surface mine, we usually do require that it be reverted back to AR1 at the closure of the surface mine. So there's not usually seen rezoning to industrial for surface mines is an Effingham County requirement. It's not a state requirement. And we do require reversion to AR1 after the surface mine is closed. That's what's in our ordinances. So to have rezoned this and then, whether it got recorded or not, to have rezoned this for surface mine support activity and then expect to be able to turn it into any type of industrial is really where we're objecting and where we're, moving away from Mr. Yellen's analysis, because it was only ever rezoned to industrial to support surface mine activity. It wasn't rezoned for industrial to accommodate manufacturing or warehousing or any of the other industrial uses. So yes, it's true that we should probably come up with a different categorization for our zoning, and we're currently working on revising our zoning districts and hoping to repair those kind of flaws. But at this time, it is zoned industrial. It was initially probably rezoned to industrial in 2014, but purely to support surface mining activities. But the other issues and so it's not up for rezoning now, it's up for variance request. And the variance is to accommodate a proposed shipping container storage site. This 6 acres is proposed to accommodate 184 pads for containers. We don't know how high they plan to be stacked. We don't know how many trucks will be coming in and out on a daily basis. We really don't have any information with this sketch plan. So it's hard to assess the impact on Godley Road. The city of Bloomingdale has expressed opposition, and in fact, the city manager signed a letter. It's included in your packet. And we've discussed this at the sketch plan pre-application meeting and discussed the possibility, if it were to be improved, whether, you know, we would go ahead and require a road maintenance bond. And that would be Effingham County and Chatham County and Bloomingdale, because the impact on the roads could be significant of trucks bringing in containers for 184 pads, and especially if they're going to be stacked, because then it, you know, the growth, there are a lot more trucks involved there. So going to container storage, moving away from even any consideration of surface mining, container storage is a heavy industrial use, and this parcel would require 300-foot buffers, and you know, we did convey that information at during the rezoning process and at the sketch plan pre-application meeting. It's simply not really large enough to accommodate 300-foot buffers and still have usable space, but that is not really specifically a hardship. It's zoned industrial to support surface mine activity. It wasn't zoned industrial to launch a manufacturing or, you know, warehousing operation. That's not what the intent was back in 2014, and it's certainly not what the commissioners, you know, gave their blessing to when they approved rezoning a couple of months ago. So the required buffer remains 300 feet. And while the commissioners have certainly, and you all have considered variances and waivers and reductions to buffers where appropriate, reducing it to 25 feet is basically, you know, as Mr. Yellen said, that would take considering the adjacent use to be the driving factor, when in fact we have to look, staff has to look at the zoning. So we look at the surrounding zoning district, which in Effingham County is AR1, and in city of Bloomingdale down here, it's their version of AR1. It's an ag residential district as well. They have buffer requirements which are greater than the 25. They're less than Effingham County's, that's true, but they are greater than the 25-foot required.
All right. Thank you, ma'am. So is there anyone else that wishes to speak? Yes, sir.
All that is, I don't know where y'all got on the information that was on the industrial for.
So I need to get, can you wait till you get to the microphone? Thank you, sir. Could I ask you to
That
state?
was zoned in 2014.
Sir, could I ask you to state your name, please?
Ernest J. Hodgen.
Thank you, sir.
That was zoned in 2014 for, it's nothing to do with a mining pit. It was zoned industrial for logs to come in on log trucks and containers to go out with the logs in them to be shipped to China or wherever. It was nothing to do with mining.
But it was it was zoned industrial though, right?
Zoned industrial to put logs in containers and containers to be picked up, and, you know, they brought the logs in, they put them in and ship them out in containers.
Right.
That's what the property was zoned in 2014 for. Had nothing to do with a surface mining pit. That's on the other side of the road.
All
I
right.
own the land around it, and my brother's here, and he owns the land beside it. You know, I think a 25-foot buffer would be plenty, to satisfy us. We own a lot of property around there, and there's nobody else there.
All right, sir.
But that was, I don't know where that information come from about zone for a surface mining, industrial for a surface mining pit. I mean, I had some property zoned for that, but it's not on that side of Golly Road. There's a pit over there, but in Chatham County, they don't require that zoning on a surface mining pit. That's what's behind the log yard.
Gotcha.
It was zoned for logs and containers from the get-go.
All right, sir. Thank you, Mr. Otkin. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak either in favor or against this request? Mr. Yellen, do you have any comments or anything you wish to?
Yes, sir, and I would echo the same statement made by Mr. Otchen. The 2014 staff report indicates that this property was rezoned to industrial specifically because the surrounding property was for surface mines, and that staff and county commission felt at that time that there was no other use that could go here based upon the proximity of the surface mines that would limit its use. And so when they went through the industrial rezoning, it was out of concern that they'd created a 6-acre parcel that was going to be severely limited by who would want to go there. And I will also state that as part of the rezoning that we recently did, I know that the comments came up about how high are the containers going to be, what are the plans going to look like. We did agree to go through that traffic impact report, and so any of those concerns would be addressed at that time in terms of the traffic to be created, because obviously going taller would create more traffic than a single level. And so, once again, thank you all for your time tonight.
Is there anyone else? All right, I'll close the public comment discussion from the board.
Other than the surface mining, that, what is there a use that would fit within the property that's, 300-foot buffer would apply to any use that's proposed in there?
No, heavy industrial uses, 300-foot buffer, light industrial uses require a 150-foot buffer to surround, 300. It depends. See the green, the AR1, if a light industrial use was proposed, then the buffer requirement is 150 feet within the industrial zone parcel, regardless of its size. Across the road, though, is R-zoned property, and that's where the 300 feet would come back. Now, you do have the right-of-way of the road, and there have been occasions when the commissioners take into consideration the width of the right-of-way of the road, and maybe look at that as a factor in a buffer variance or reduction. But in this case, a 6-acre parcel is not well equipped to accommodate a 300-foot buffer. You see that on this sketch plan, they're showing a 25-foot buffer on the side, and here against the road. So you can say that, 150 feet would be significant, it would really leave a very, very small workable area. But again, this is, voluntarily rezoned. It was not envisioned ever for shipping container storage. That's a much newer phenomenon in this area. And it's on a road that is not a designated truck route. It's on a road that's not really built to handle the kind of truck traffic that we would see in a shipping container storage yard.
What you got, Alan? You got any questions?
What is the access to that Godly Road?
Godly Road leads down to Highway 80 to the south.
So he's gonna come out of his property and he's gonna go south across, which he's in Effingham, and then he's gonna go through Chatham County to get to, before he gets to Highway 80.
Yes.
That's my only concern, and that's my only request, is no matter what happens, that, part of the motion should be that before county commission, that there is some discussion about the road, because, and I know this is not gonna be very popular for me to say since the last, items with the road, but this is heavy industrial. And I know my information has been that it's been very difficult for Effingham County and Chatham County to share in road maintenance. So, if Effingham fixes their road, but Chatham doesn't, then the people that live back there are still, and there's a heavy industrial use that's torn it up. That's my only concern, that before county commissioners, whether this is up or down, there needs to be some discussion about what the future holds for this road, if it's possible. I don't think it's been possible for years. I know it was dirt, it was paved, it was dirt.
But I don't think that's one of the roads in the county that's designated as a truck use road, so it's
No,
gonna have
absolutely
pretty heavy
not. I mean,
truck traffic on that road.
no. 187 parking spots is
Yeah.
heavy industrial.
Yeah.
Any further discussion?
Were there any standards proposed for the buffer reduction? Like what was proposed inside the 25 feet? And I apologize if I missed it, but.
No, the application does not give any description of proposed plantings within the buffer, the proposed 25-foot buffer. So just viewing this plan that's laid on the aerial photography, on this side, it looks like there may be existing trees. On this side, there doesn't appear to be. And in fact, we have some photos. Oh, hold on. This is the current, so yeah, it is currently used for some minor container storage, and Chatham Timber is the name of the company that's operating there now. And this is a view in, so this would be the existing quote-unquote buffer that exists. So there are some trees, there is some vegetation along that one side, which is this side here. But, you know, our buffer requirement is a planted vegetative buffer. It can be natural if the trees are, you know, if there's trees and underbrush that's significant, or it can be planted after the fact. But in this case, don't have a plan from the applicant for maximizing the effectiveness of that 25-foot reduced buffer at all. It's just a request to reduce it so that they can maximize the number of pads for container storage.
All right, thank you.
One more thing, is that,
Yes, sir, very quickly.
yeah, around this property, there's a 20-foot dirt buffer, completely down the road and between me and my brothers, with trees on it. But you're not, they had to go on the property to take that picture to see those containers.
No, I was on the road.
Well, they went through the gate or something, they didn't take it through a 20-foot berm of dirt,
I was on the road.
huh?
I was on the road when I took these photos. Actually, some of these were submitted by the applicant for the rezoning application, so they
Yeah.
may have been from, I took the Chatham Timber, I think I took the one up here on the right, but the container one might have come in on the rezoning application. So I did reuse them from the rezoning from a couple of months
Yeah,
ago.
there's a 20-foot gate there, but other than that, it's a 20-foot dirt of 30 feet wide at the bottom. That we, back when we built it, it was built out of muck, off jobs. Now there's trees all the way around that property. And a dirt buffer, 20 feet tall.
All right, thank you, Ms. Stockton. Anything further from the board? If not, I'll call for a motion.
Yeah, I'm a bit torn on this one from the standpoint of I see the variance, understand what 300 feet does to the property. To be honest, I wish some more information were submitted with the variance request of what that buffer is. Even if you could show the berm you're talking about that has been built around it. You know, I can see the need for potentially less than the 300, especially considering, you know, that there is I guess a debatable history here, right?
Yeah, no doubt.
So I just, I would just like to see a little bit more information, to be honest, on the buffer, what's being proposed in it. If there is existing vegetation, existing berm, I mean, that does affect the quality of the buffer, definitely in my opinion. So I will keep in mind that the fact that there is an existing use on the site, so.
I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, I mean, so Mr. Ogden's, point, 2 points, which they own the property around it. And there is a very substantial dirt berm. You know, I personally, I lean towards reducing the buffer, but I'm not sure where my concern for the use of this property comes in, you know, because it was being used as something which was much less invasive on the road. I'm not sure whether I can take into that in consideration or not, the use. Does that make,
Yeah, it does. I
that
guess
make
that's why,
sense?
that's what there was a decision made to zone it to industrial, so there was a use,
Yeah,
right?
I mean, there was, you know, a log yard there that was taking 10 to 30 trucks a day, you know, in and out, and then loading containers in and out, you know, and now we're looking at 180 some
Right.
parking places. I mean, I don't know how to, I don't know how to get my head wrapped around changing what we were doing to now.
Right.
I agree that if that dirt berm is 20 foot tall, vegetated all the way around it, it provides adequate protection for the property, but my issue is what it does to the roads.
Right.
Can the roads handle that many trucks?
Well, how many containers are on there now? I mean, it's being used as a container laydown yard right now.
Yeah,
It is.
yeah.
Yeah. So how many containers are there? 100 now? How many trucks a day are going on that property, in and out on that road?
I don't know. I mean, that's, you know, my thoughts are, and that was my comment earlier, is the motion either way needs to bring some more information to the county commissioners, as to, you know, a look into why that motion was made that way, approve or deny. So that they have a better understanding of the information when it gets there.
I'll make a motion to deny.
All right, I have a motion to deny. Is there a second?
I'll second.
There's a second. All those in favor of denial? Any opposed to denial? Did you vote to deny or not?
I voted in favor.
Favor of denial. So motion carries by all. Catalyst Investment Partners LLC is agent for Ernest Ogden. Request approval of a sketch plan. I'm assuming you still want to submit that sketch plan, keep it together. Yes, okay. Which is on I-1 First District. Mr. Yellen, do you wish to make any additional comments on the sketch plan? Obviously, if we've looked at it.
All the comments remain the same.
Okay. All right, thank you, sir. Questions, comments from the board? Ms. Concanon, do you have any additional information? Teresa?
I'm just reading my staff report a little bit here. So if this were to be approved, we don't normally add conditions to a sketch plan. What we do is after the fact, send a notice to proceed, and that would include any comments or recommendations that were made at this meeting and at the Board of Commissioners meeting.
All right, thank you. I call for a motion.
Make a motion to deny.
Have a motion to deny. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. All those in favor of denial? Any opposed? Motion carried by all. I mean, Mr. Yellen, I think you probably got a lot of notes, information to present to the county commissioners, traffic counts. You know, if there is any information about the road with Effingham County and Chatham County for the future, I think all those things would be more educational at the county commissioners.
Thank you, this is very helpful.
Okay, thank you. Item 5, public hearing for D.A. Griffin, request to rezone 4.94 acres from AR1 to AR2 to allow for the creation of a home site located at 384 Zipper Road. This is the 2nd district. Is there a representative for Mr. or Mrs. Griffin? Yes, ma'am.
How are y'all tonight?
Good, how are you?
Good. As y'all can see that, I'm wanting to split my property up. I'm wanting to give acreage to my daughter. She's gonna build behind me. So she'll have the right-of-way through my driveway coming through to her property. And that's basically what I'm just trying to do, trying to split it up to where she could have her property, I'll have mine. And maybe she'll take care of me when I'm old.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Questions or comments at this time? Ms. Teresa, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, so this property is zone AR1, which is our large lot ag residential zoning district. Usually it requires 5 acres. We have a lot of parcels that are slightly less than that. It just goes back to how zoning was adopted. But in this case, you can see on the screen that everything around there is AR1. So splitting it into 2 parcels, again, that's very common, and it would require rezoning before staff could sign a survey, though. And so that's why we recommended that you request rezoning, just so that we can move ahead and approve the plat, and you can go ahead and subdivide your property. So we're recommending approval.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak? Call for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve with staff recommendations.
Motion for approval, is there a second?
Second that.
Second. All those in favor of approval? Any opposed? Motion carried by all. Good luck, Ms. Griffin.
Thank
Good
you
luck.
for your time.
Item 6 is a public hearing for Stephen Reed as agent for Paul E. Bruner, request to rezone 0.8 acres from AR1 to AR2 to allow for combination with an adjacent parcel located at 205 Pitts Road. This is the 3rd district. Mr. Reed?
Yeah.
Yes. Good evening.
Stephen Reed. I own a 4.63 acre lot at 123 Pitts Road, and this basically just round off the back of our property. We're just adding another acre to the back of it. It's kind of shaped like a weird 7 right now, and this will make it nice and square on the backside and add a little bit of space. Mr. Bruner's here as well. I don't know if he wants to say anything, but that's all we're trying to accomplish with this. It's just gonna be horse pasture, not building anything on it, so.
So you purchased the adjacent property?
Mhm.
The 0.8 acres, and you're adding it to it?
We own the 4.63, and we're adding the 0.8 from Mr. Bruner.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Questions, comments at this time?
See that,
Yeah,
I see
so-
that 7 now that you're talking about.
It's a weird shaped property, yes, sir. Yeah. I think it's been pieced together over the years, and so.
Ms. Teresa?
This slightly darker green is AR2, which is which allows parcels of 1 acre or more. And the lighter green to the left there is the AR1, which is 5 acres or more. So where that star is, that my understanding is if you want to step back and see it, you're cutting off that little rectangle and adding it to this parcel. So we just need to bring the colors to the same.
Yeah, because I also own that one section at the top.
Yeah.
The 2244
Right.
10A.
So you own from the curve all the way around?
No, just that 123 right there.
Oh, this one here, yeah.
And then there's one on just to the left of that, like underneath the star.
Okay.
So
Oh, down here.
I own that section there too.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, but splitting this from here, because it's less than 5 acres, we can't sign a survey, we can't sign a plat unless it's rezoned, and it's gonna be recombined, so when you come back with the survey, that will show exactly what's happening. So it's just a really procedural thing just to clean up the map.
Thank you. Yeah. Anyone else wish to speak, either in favor or against this request? Call for a motion.
Make a motion to approve with staff recommendations.
Motion to approve, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second, Mr. Thompson, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried by all. Good luck, Mr. Reed. Item 7 was withdrawn. Item 8 is a public hearing for Hubert T. Griner Jr. to request to rezone 3.21 acres from AR1 to AR2 to AR1 to allow for combination with an adjacent parcel located at 1360 Highway 17 South. This is the 3rd district. Good evening, sir.
Hey, how you doing?
So you're just combining some land, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Just that simple?
But 3.2 acres along with 8.5 acres.
Okay.
Which is blocks in 3.2 acres.
All right.
Yeah, so you can see
I
it
just
up on the
want to time
screen.
it 2 into 1 plat.
I got you. Make it simple?
Yep.
Yes, ma'am.
It's just what's on the screen there, again, where the star is, that's zoned AR2, and in order to combine it with the larger lot that's outlined in red, it needs to be rezoned to AR1, but it'll be recombined, and so the survey will tell that story, and then we'll be able to approve that. We'll be able to sign that once it's approved at the commissioner's level.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak either in favor or against this request? I call for a motion.
Make a motion to approve with staff recommendations.
Motion for approval, is there a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Higgins, all those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried by all. Thank you, Mr. Griner.
All right, thank you.
Item 9 is a public hearing for James N. Carlson, request to rezone 3 acres plus or minus from AR1 to AR2 to allow for the creation of a 5-lot subdivision located at 2077 Highway 119 North. This is the 3rd district. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. So as stated, we're looking to develop it into 5 sites. We currently live on Lot 2. We're looking to build another home on Lot 1 and put 3 home sites on the Lot 3, 4, and 5. So we're requesting for it to be zoned from AR1 to AR2 if possible.
All right, thank you, sir. Any questions, comments? Ms. Teresa, do you have anything you wish to add?
Yeah, so the parcel, he referred to Lot 2, that's right here, that'll end up being over 5 acres at 6.442, and then Lot 1 is combining actually with another parcel there, so that will end up, again, within the acreage requirements for AR1, but these 3 at the back, that's what we're asking to rezone, and together they add up to 3.87 acres, and that's the portion that needs to be rezoned. So this plat shows everything. It shows the access easement, it shows the private road or easement statement, and it will include the health department approval before it'll have to be approved at the Board of Commissioners because it's more than 3 lots. It's considered a major subdivision, so on the night that the Board of Commissioners hears it, and assuming they approve the rezoning, that the chairman would be able to sign it after the meeting.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? Call for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve with all staff recommendation.
Motion for approval, is there a second?
Second.
Second, Ms. Smith. All those in favor of approval? Any opposed? Motion carried by all. Thank you, Mr. Carlson. Item 10 is a public hearing for Reuben E. Jenkins III, request to rezone 1.05 acres from AR1 to B2 to allow for commercial use located at 351 Webb Road. This is the 4th district. Good evening, sir.
How you doing, sir?
Good, sir. Good evening. Could you just tell us about your plan?
Yes, sir. I own tractor trailers, and I park them now at 343 Webb Road, which I own next door. And I was just going to do the same at 351 Webb.
All right, sir. So are you enlarging your operation, or?
Not really. Where I'm at now, the yard is kind of small, and that's why I purchased next door also, to have room to actually get in and turn around with the big trucks.
All right, sir.
And which it has been a wrecking yard before and a garage before, and then I bought it and cleaned it all up.
So you don't have a plan for any of that anymore?
No, sir.
I got you.
No, sir.
Any questions or comments at this time?
I just want to state what Teresa said earlier. We had talked about it. If there's any other business that's going to be operated there, other than your personal business, it'd have to come before the board and seek a variance, is that?
Conditional use.
Conditional use, other than what you're doing with your current situation.
And have a business license.
And yeah, they just have to come before the board. If it was additional business that was going to be out there, they would need to seek a business license and have a sketch plan of what their operation's going to be.
Yes, sir.
There, but.
All right, sir. Any questions, comments further at this time?
So you're gonna bring your trucks in off of Webb Road that's south of it?
Yes, sir. Off of McCall, and then I come straight down Webb, and then I'm the 5th on the left there. right before the railroad track,
You're gonna go
if you
through
see the railroad
easement
track.
to get to your property. To get to that property, you're gonna go all the way down to the corner, take a left and go in?
Yeah, because I already own, see the drive coming off, Webb Road right there, how it comes down and it's dirt. That part of the property already goes to 343.
Gotcha.
So with the buffers that the staff report talks about, will that be required even with the, and I guess this is a question to staff, I apologize. With continuation or expansion of what he's currently doing, I just want to be clear, if it moves forward, what are the expectations would have to be on
Well,
that?
okay, so there's not currently a business license, so we don't know of any business operating at that site. There hasn't been a business license there in a while. It was rezoned in 1980 for a warehouse and a shop, and over the years, there've been a variety of businesses, as we're aware. Code enforcement has
Yes.
been out there on a number of occasions. Owners have cleaned up, junkyards and such over the years. So at this time, there's not currently a business known to be operating on the site, and it's sort of a surprise to hear that there are tractor trailers parking there. Although I was out there and
At 343, I didn't mean to cut you off, ma'am.
yeah,
At parking at 343.
right. So our concerns are that Webb Road it's a surface treated road, and then that I'm not sure we can call it an easement or the dirt, sort of the unpaved portion that is access that I drove up, because I was on it here when I took these pictures. There's an unpaved portion there to the side that may or may not be suitable surface depending on the type of business. We don't know what the business currently is. We don't know what the business is proposed. So we have some concerns about what kind of traffic might be heading in there. B2 is a fairly low-intensity commercial district. It permits childcare, retail, residential development, indoor entertainment, offices. It doesn't permit automotive service. It doesn't permit commercial parking. That's not actually permitted within that zoning district. So even if the boards were to rezone this to B2, parking of commercial traffic, it's not permitted. Like, that would have to come back as a conditional use. So that's why, we have recommended denial, because we do not have enough information. Staff do not have enough information at this time. But if you were to go forward with B2, it's possible, based on your proposed use, that you would need to get additional approval as a conditional use. But also, we would want to see, well, what improvements are planned? Is there a gravel parking area? Is there a paved drive? What improvements? Or if you're not proposing improvements, we'll need to review that and ensure that it's not going to have a negative impact on the development around it. At this point, this is from the original 1980 rezoning file. If you wanted to look, this is the aerial photography. It was undeveloped to the north. It was, used for vehicle storage even back then. Now, this is next to Dasher Point, so it's next to a single-family residential subdivision, and we have some concerns that a renewed business use that involves parking of vehicles or storing of vehicles could lead to some complaints from these folks in Springfield. So we want to have answers for them, and that's why we would want to see a lot more information before, at a staff level, we could recommend approval.
Yeah, because I've already been there 3 years, and the trucks has been there every day.
So,
How many trucks are we talking?
2.
2 trucks.
Yes, sir, and 2 log trailers.
Is that all you're proposing to park? Just the 2?
That's all you're proposing to park? You're not
I'm
changing.
opening up 25 tractor
Yeah,
trailers.
you're not changing anything you're not already doing, I understand.
Yes, sir.
And you live on that property, the backside of that?
343, I already have it also. And then on the other is just the building itself, and then the property that, like she spoke about, I cleaned up. So they were running I call it a wrecking yard. They bring cars in there and cut them apart, and they had a mess. So that's why we purchased it, to clean it up and not be a part of it.
Thank you, Mr. Jenkins.
I appreciate you.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak either in favor or against this request? All right, nothing further from the board. I'll call for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion for approval. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second, Mr. Zipper. All those in favor? Any opposed? You opposed? Motion carries 4-1. Thank you, Mr. Jenkins. Item 11 is a public hearing for Gary Farrell, request a variance to reduce required setbacks allowing for replacement accessory structure located at 1129 Ralph Run Road, zoned R1. It's the 4th district. Mr. Farrell? Yes, sir.
Good evening, my name is Gary Farrell. I own the house at 1129 Ralph Ron Road. There was a pre-existing building.
Sir, can I get a little closer to that microphone, sir?
Yes.
Thank you.
There was a pre-existing building on my property that was used for, I don't know, it looked like there was welding material, 220 amp circuit breaker, that kind of thing. It was a wood structure. It was really dilapidated. I thought when we bought the property I could probably repair it. When we started taking the siding off and stuff, it was just too rotted to repair. So I hired, I actually looked around locally at all those roadside places where you buy structures to have another building put on the property. Wanted it to match the new fence and our roof, some remodeling that we're doing. So I hired a company to fabricate the colors for us, a 16 by 30 building. And then we had a slab put down with footings, rebar, everything. Took pictures of all of that for that building. When we bought the building, there was a shadow box fence that was also dilapidated that was up against the property line, right up against the chain link fence at the neighbor's property. We removed all of that fencing and we brought the fence in so that we could walk it, because the new fence we're putting up is made out of cement board, a hardy plank and trim. We're still working on it. We wanted to paint it. So there's a large walkway that you can walk down and service the fence. So the building slab sits at 5 feet 6 inches from the property line. It lines up. It's a little offset, but if it was 10 feet off, it would not line up with my driveway. It's dry storage. I use it for my yard tools. I have some shelves in there with, gosh, just, clippers, hose, rakes, water bottles, things
So
like that.
we're looking at a picture. The fence is on the line.
It used to be. That's probably the old fence. I can't see what you're talking about.
Take a step back.
No, sir. That fence is 2.5 feet off of the property line.
Okay.
Yes, sir. There's a large walkway on the other side of that.
I got you.
I moved it over substantially because it was bumped up right against the neighbor's fence. Hard to service, weed eating or anything else. So it's kind of where I'm at. There's a leach field to the right of this building. If you're looking at it from my driveway, there's a leach field. We had brought a truck back there and it sank into the leach field, probably 5 feet long, at least I'd say 2.5 feet deep, because the ground's so soft and not compacted there. So it would be a problem to move it.
So you're asking for 4.5 feet?
Yes, sir.
Questions, comments at this time? Ms. Teresa, do you have anything you wish to add to this?
Yes, we met with Mr. Farrell, and he's going to be working with the building official to
Yes.
get the building permits approved retroactively for this structure. And for our purposes, in order for staff to approve zoning compliance for the structure, we need a variance so that we can check that box. So this is a necessary part of the building permit approval after the fact. And as I said, he'll be working with the building official on that.
Yes.
But staff are recommending approval. The photo shows, I took this today, there was a shed there, he replaced a shed, didn't know to come through our process, but here he is coming through our process now. So we have, the boards have considered this in the past, that an accessory structure that lines up with the driveway that is constrained by the location of the septic drain field. We have seen approvals for this kind of thing in the past.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak either in favor or against this? Yes, sir, Mr. Farrell, we may have some questions for you in a moment.
Good evening, I'm Dale Graveline. I own the property right next to it at 1115. My understanding is when you apply for a variance on it, you're supposed to do that prior to applying for a permit to build, is that correct?
Yes, sir, that is correct.
Okay,
So just for clarification, you're on the other side of this building, across the fence?
yes,
Okay, thank you, sir.
yes. Since they bought this property, I've got several pictures here you're more than welcome to take a look at on it. The reason it all came in question is I erected a carport several months back on it, on an existing slab that was already there. Had to jump through hoops and make sure everything was in line just to put a carport up to protect my vehicles on it. The setbacks were in place then. I didn't variance on any part of that on it. It was real unclear when it came to a carport. So I got clearance on that prior to getting a permit before I built the carport. All that stuff was there. So when these buildings were erected, I called the permit office and said, hey, what changed on this stuff on it? Because the building in question on it is less than 4.5 feet from my fence, which is just barely back inside the property line. It's causing some water issues every time it rains. I've got standing water on my property now. He's erected a fence. He's erected 2 buildings with slabs back there with no permit. I've got substantial water holding every time it rains on my side of the fence. He did set the fence 2.5 feet back from the property line on it, but he also fails to maintain that property other than picking weeds up out of that dirt, which you can see. This is here, and I guess he chooses, he doesn't want to pick up the weeds and put them on his property. He chooses to throw them back on my property, which I intend to return the favor and put them over that fence. This is the structure he's talking about on it, but that's closed in. I can't access it to maintain it. He is yet to weed eater to maintain it since he's erected the fence.
That's on your side?
This is on my side, yes, sir. I've got several pictures here on it. Fences on this property in that subdivision on it aren't supposed to even exceed the back corner of the house. That's where my chain link stops on it. I don't mind the fence, because the less I have to see of it is the better, but he also didn't bring it to the ground. It's well above the ground, most all the way across there. This man blows his yard just about every day with a backpack blower, whatever leaves. The wrappings from this fence material that's been sitting in his driveway for over a year, constantly blowing on my property on a daily basis. And the water standing on it is my biggest concern on it. I had to do all this stuff in
So, let's try to stick to the accessory building. The accessory building is causing the water to stand?
It wasn't there before all of this. It wasn't there before that fence. He's brought in tons of dirt. So all this water and everything runs over into my property now every time it rains. You can see the standing water on it. I've got neighbors there that own the house before him, my old neighbors own it. None of this was an issue on it. Prior to him building all these structures unpermitted.
So did he replace, is that accurate, that he replaced an older building with a new building?
There was an older temporary, there was a portable building on it sitting on skids. There was no slabs there.
And he put this structure in the same spot?
No, sir, moved it closer to the fence. It's less than 4.5 feet off the property line.
Gotcha.
So it has to have displaced some water, other issues on it, this fence, all the dirt that how many tons of dirt that he brought in to build his yard up on it, but didn't bring the fence down to the ground, so all of that stuff just washes right over into my yard. Every time it rains on it, I've got a pool out there between my driveway and his fence.
Gotcha. All right, questions, comments at this time? All right, sir. Thank you, Mr. Grayline.
Right.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak, either in favor or against this request? Yes, sir, I mean,
I'd like to elaborate a little bit. I think I can help clear up some of this. It's just a misunderstanding. I did bring in a lot of dirt. I think it was about 65 yards of topsoil to the front yard. The front yard was in really poor condition. So we took down some trees that drop, actually a couple weeks after I moved in the house, a tree almost fell on my house. Fell right in front of the house. The trees were all rotted and they dropped those pine things, those
pine cones?
what are they? Gum trees. So we took down a bunch of gum trees over there on the left side. He took down a couple that were between the two properties. I had all of the shavings and stuff taken out, that all the stump grinding and stuff. He left his there, and it's all compressing. So I brought in the topsoil and I built that fence, but I'm not done with that fence. I kept that fence level instead of going up and down because it's all eroding there where his trees were taken out. And it's all the shavings from the stumps that weren't cleared out and then new dirt brought in. So it's continuing to sink down. We built that fence and now we want to come in along the other side. That's why I moved everything in so that I can legally go in and fix all of that and build a retainer wall to keep all of my property from eroding down into his, because it's all collapsing on his side. In the backyard, it's all recessed. It's been the driveway floods, the backyard floods. I need to bring in a lot of dirt to build up the backyard. But we're building a horizontal 1x8, 5/4x8 cement boards to go along the bottom and the top. I'm just not finished with the fence. It's going to be painted. I also had hired somebody to put gutters in on that building, but when this became a problem, I stopped. It was $1,200. And then we have plans to bring in a drainage ditch right along the side of the driveway between the two properties and where our downspouts are, because there's a lot of flooding there. It's recessed and it floods. It goes downhill into a ditch, and the ditch fills up with water at the easement. So we have plans, but I work real hard. It's been a year in progress is what's going on. So yeah, you see a gap there, but that's because it recedes so badly. I couldn't build a fence like that. So now we've got to go back and build retainer walls and add dirt and stuff and support it. So everything just kind of came to a stop when this came up, you know. So that's what it is, though. That's why my yard floods badly too, and I'm trying to fix all that.
All right, sir.
I have one on Zoom.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Farrell. You can have a seat, sir.
Okay, go ahead, Tori.
Oh, this is Tony Nixon. Can you
Good
hear me?
evening. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I live at 103 Buckfield, and, okay, I understand Mr. Farrell is asking for a variance for to replace the existing structure that was there. I understand that. Now, he has put another structure on the backside that is beside my property line. It's on his property, but beside us. And is the variance supposed to be 15 feet, 5 feet?
10 feet from the side, 5 feet from the rear. Code enforcement measured that, and they say it's within the requirements.
Okay, so he has put a downspout on that building, gutter downspout, which is, you know, when it rains or we let's say we get a hurricane, that water is going to come into my yard, which has my septic tank and my field lines right there. So
He's putting out our drainage.
So is he gonna fix that? Somehow, is he putting like a drain in to go somewhere else? On that back building?
I'm sorry, I'm not sure how to answer that question. I mean, we're discussing the other building.
We don't have a requirement for gutters or downspouts, so that's not something that we're gonna look at in a permit review. As far as drainage on private property, I'm not, I mean, I've made a note for the commissioners meeting. I'm gonna find the subdivision final plat and find the drainage plan and see if there's any information there on easements.
Yeah, I
But
don't think it's fair for for anyone to put water off their property onto someone else's property. I mean,
Well,
obviously
it's
that-
pushing it onto ours.
Okay. Then, you know, Brian, do you?
I just, because we did not get an actual, with it actually on the plat, right? So we don't see if that is a drainage easement down the edge right
Yeah.
now. I'm just wondering, can we table it or something until we do get that information? Or
Sure.
get some information, I mean, cause
Yeah,
that would be another issue. Like, I don't think we could even approve the variance if it was inside of an easement, right? From a standpoint. of that
Actually,
nature.
you know what, the subdivision plat is in your packet there, and it doesn't show a drainage easement. It's highlighted, the parcel we're talking about is highlighted in yellow, and it just shows the side setback. And that 15-foot side setback is for the primary structure, so that's common in R1 zoning, which is what this is. But I don't see a drainage easement. I will see if I can find the construction plans and see if there's a drainage plan. At the very back, though, actually, the Brookfield Drive, you see there is a 35-foot utility and drainage easement noted on the plat coming off Buckfield Drive.
Yes, that's off the entrance.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. I mean, unfortunately, I don't know the answers for the drainage issues. I mean, obviously, that's something that, I guess, is that possible for the county to take a look at? I mean, you know, how do they remedy that? Does anybody have any thoughts? I mean, you know, because we're here tonight to talk about
Variance on the
a
setback.
variance on a building.
On the setback.
Yes, sir, Mr. Larson, would you?
But one of the things that I noticed just from this aerial picture is I've heard a couple of people now talking about the violation that this applicant is making with the setback of that building, but I can see clearly that there's some buildings from this aerial that is
Well, he says they're
in
not.
severe violation. This one's on the property line, this one's on the property line, there's no setback.
It looks like it by that picture, but, I mean, the gentleman said he did everything by the rules. Yes, sir.
So drainage on private property.
Could I get you to introduce
Yes,
yourself,
sir.
please?
I'm Eric Larson. I'm Assistant County Manager and County Engineer. Good evening. Private property drainage is tricky. You know, it is a private property drainage issue between two parties, a civil matter to a certain extent. When we do review for building permits for the primary structure, we do ask in the site plan that goes with the building permit to show direction of flow. We stop short of an engineered drainage plan, but we do make sure that they have positive flow away from the foundation, and we do look to make sure that they're not negatively impacting adjacent properties. Something that was said earlier that I'll just mention is it is a common misconception that you cannot drain onto somebody else, and that's not true. I mean, water goes downhill. But you can make sure it's done in a responsible manner. And that's where common enemy law comes into play. And it's really not anything that the county deals with at all. This is a civil matter between two parties. Is water upstream has to go downstream. But if you channelize that flow, change that flow in any character, or if you're the downstream property and dam that flow and prevent it from entering the property because you don't want the upstream property to drain onto you, one or the two of you could be liable in a civil matter, but it's not something that we enforce, and it's definitely not in our code of ordinances. For this application specifically, as Teresa finds whatever was submitted with the application for the building permit, the retroactive permit for this, I'll look and see if there was any drainage issues on it or anything drainage related on there. I don't typically do this until it rises to the level where it needs it, but I may end up having to drive out there and take a look at this.
Well, this was a platted
So-
subdivision, engineered, so,
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, if any dirt's been brought in, it's changed what an engineer once upon a time,
Yeah.
you know, how they,
And Teresa will pull the
Drainage on
construction
it.
plans, I think she said, and I'll look at them with her. looking at the plat that was included in your packet, I don't see a drainage easement, which is a good indication when I look at the construction plans. I'm not gonna see anything on drainage related to that either.
So do you think you could have that accomplished by county commissioner time on May the 3rd?
Yeah, we'll take a look at it and be ready for
That
the
would be
May
very
3rd
helpful,
meeting.
and that would
Yeah.
let us get back to the question at hand, which is a variance on a side setback.
Sure.
Thank you.
The dirt that was running from the front yard.
Sir, we're gonna talk about the building now, and, hopefully Mr. Larson will have some information for everyone at county commissioner's time. But, you know, this application is for a side setback, so, sorry. Is there any additional information on, yes, sir?
I'd like to speak, excuse me. Good evening. My name's William Calloway. I own the property from 2015 to 2018. Never had any drainage issues. Between the two driveways on Ralph Ron Road, there was a little bit of a gully, right? So if you got a lot of rain, it would come out of mine and Dale's, and it would drain down to the drainage ditch like it was supposed to. When you start altering that, you're gonna start flooding somebody. I never had a problem in that backyard at all. So, just here to let you know.
Thank you, Mr. Callaway.
Yes, sir.
Anything further on the side setbacks? All right, I'm gonna close public comment. Any discussion on the building, side setbacks? How many feet? No. Everybody good? Call for a motion.
Make a motion to approve.
A motion to approve, is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor of approval? Any opposed? I'm opposed. 4-1. Motion carries. So hopefully there'll be some more information available at county commissioner's time, especially dealing with the drainage.
These variances on it, are they not supposed to be applied for before the permit? All of this stuff was done without a permit. How can you all approve a variance on it when he built all of this? I mean, do we not have rules on there? I thought that's what this stuff was about.
Well,
We're here tonight.
we do, I mean,
Don't just approve, recommended to approve it, don't
I
it?
had put in to put a building back there, 2016, 2017. I was told I had to get a permit before I could.
I can't speak to why he didn't, if he did it maliciously or not. I mean, I don't know that. I mean, obviously there was a building there. Sorry, the board's ruled. I mean, this is just a recommendation to the county commissioners. I think there'll be a lot more information available on Mr. Larson by the time you get to the county commissioners. Item 12 is a public hearing for K&M Effingham Properties LLC requests a variance to reduce required buffers for an industrial property to accommodate a proposed development located at 1204 Mill Pond Road. This is the 5th district. Is there a representative for K&M? Good evening, ma'am.
Hello. My name's Linda Sims. I'm with Coleman Company, and I'm representing the owner in this matter. The property is approximately 7 acres, and with the current adjacent zoning being a residential application, that would give us the 300-foot buffer, which would take our 7-acre parcel down to under an acre of usable space. So we are requesting at this time to reduce those buffers. The property to the south of us is going to be zoned industrial as well. I have a letter from them, and they have no problem with the reduction of the buffer. And as you can see, it's kind of like a flag lot, so he kind of wraps our property as well. So, and then on the other side of us is the railroad. So, and then across from us is also industrial. So we are just asking for the relief to the south and to the east of our property.
All right, thank you. Questions, comments at this time?
So I'm trying to figure out which is north and south. That you're saying the property to the south is industrial?
Yeah, it's like a
Yes.
flag, see, it's a
Yes.
little flag light running back there, the blue. Got your map.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm trying to discern it, so, okay, so that is Ebenezer, and this property back here, okay.
Yep.
That's already
Exactly.
industrial.
See the little blue strip down beside it?
Yep, yep, yep,
Yeah.
yep, yep.
All right, thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, so the stars in the center of the property we're talking about here at 1204 Mill Pond is the address. And you've all noted that essentially it's a flag lot. The blue is R1, it's single-family residential zoning. The green is AR1. If the reason a 300-foot buffer is required on those two sides where the blue meets the red is because that is in the R single-family residential zoning district. If the flag lot had not been created, if that strip had not been part of this subdivision, and if the red, the zone industrial, were touching the light green, in fact, the required buffer would be 150 feet. So if the property with the flag lot is going to be coming through the rezoning process, it has not yet been submitted to us, then the zoning, the buffer between the two industrial lots would be light industrial to light industrial is 25 feet. So at that time, this buffer, proposed buffer of 25 feet would be appropriate, but at this time, we have two different zoning districts, and there's a significant conflict between the proposed uses.
So she stated that the lot to the south was industrial, but.
No, there's apparently,
residential.
it
It's
is
R1.
zoned for residential use only.
Well, that's
It
what I was
may be,
confused about.
it may be that the owners are planning to request rezoning, but we have not received that, or I'm not aware of it. So at this time, that blue represents R1, single-family residential zoning.
Okay.
But they own it. They own it?
No,
No.
someone else owns the blue property.
But you don't
But
own
we
that.
did receive a letter in support from them for the 25-foot buffer.
Oh, it's not gonna work.
So you're looking at 25 feet down beside that, what is that, a 60-foot easement
It's,
that accesses that back property?
yeah, it's basically a flag lot.
And that's a 60-foot easement, is that correct, Teresa?
It's not an easement, that's a strip of land that's part of, so it is
Yeah,
essentially a flag
yeah.
lot, so it's not an
So is it
easement.
60 feet?
It's a 60-foot wide, yes.
Okay, thank you.
That parcel does have access to Mill Pond, but at the time that it was subdivided in this manner, I mean, it was pretty clear that that was being left as a right-of-way, or as, potential a driveway to access Ebenezer Road, a state highway.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess technically you're 85 feet from the adjacent property owner, is that correct?
Yes, sir, with our proposed 25-foot buffer, rather than the 300-foot.
And you're asking for 25 feet along 275 and 25 feet on Mill Pond. Basically, you're asking for 25 feet all the way around?
Yes, sir. It is 25 feet on Mill Pond as well as across Ebenezer. It's the other side that is in blue on your drawing. That would be that would push the 300 feet up into our property, leaving us 0.87 acres in that corner to develop rather than the 7 acres.
Okay.
I think the application is premature until that becomes commercial or, it's still residential.
Again, I do have a notarized letter from the adjacent owner that says he's in support of us reducing that buffer to 25 feet.
We're just trying to abide by the ordinance.
Can I just ask for, I guess, a staff clarification? So, so this piece was rezoned from B3, right, to, is that not right?
No, it was R1. It was rezoned to
Okay, I
industrial
saw it did
from
not fit
R1.
in the B3 zoning district, but required rezoning to I1.
Right,
so-
right. So at the time in 2020, when it was rezoned, had it been rezoned to a commercial zoning, then the buffer requirement would have been much less. But the
25 feet.
uses proposed bring it into light industrial, and so that's why the industrial buffers come into play. But also because of the way the parent parcel was subdivided, leaving that strip of land, had that not been there, the required buffer would have been much less, because industrial to ag residential is a 150-foot buffer. But because that strip of R1, single-family residential zoning district was placed there besides the industrial, and this was done after the zoning. The zoning took place in 2020. We signed this survey last year. So the decision was made to leave that strip of land, and that's what triggered the 300-foot buffer. So the hardship was essentially created by the subdivision of the property in this manner.
25 foot.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak either in favor or against this request? I mean, so I'll close public comment. I mean, questions open to the board. I mean, I remember specifically this use, and I felt then, I may be wrong, but I didn't feel like this was a heavy industrial use.
It's a garage door company, right?
That's correct.
I felt like it was a commercial retail type.
Me too.
And that's always kind of bothered me, that they were held to a heavy industrial or 300-foot buffer. I may be wrong. I mean, maybe I'm wrong about the business.
It's not because of the industrial use, it's because it's adjacent to R1 property. Light industrial next to AR1 is a 150-foot buffer. Light industrial next to R1 is a 300-foot buffer. So it's not the industrial aspects, it's what's next to it. That's what led to the 300-foot. So it's not that we consider it to be heavy industrial at all.
Are you guys building
but they're
garage
zoned
doors or
industrial.
selling garage doors?
It's zoned industrial, which could be light or heavy.
Yes, ma'am.
My name is Caitlin Edwards, and my in-laws actually own the company. We do not build garage doors. We are simply a provider. We provide the service of anything from residential to commercial. We are a very small business. We never intend to be anything larger than that. We are small, we are family-owned, and that's all that we plan to be. This is something that my husband and I plan to inherit and continue to grow and keep the small family dynamic. So there is no production that is currently happening. We receive everything in, and I have known through sitting through here, the traffic of the semi-trucks, we hardly receive anything via semi-truck. We receive primarily everything through box truck. And with where you see the line going down and the individual that is going to be behind us, that driveway will be the way that we access, not through Mill Pond Road, that is primarily a residential area.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Edwards.
No, I'm sympathize with the business owner side of it, and I want to help them, but there is I think it's a premature request. I think that other property needs to be, they're going to eventually make that other property commercial,
That's fine.
and then it'll be a moot point.
That's fine.
But we're requiring, the county's requiring it to be industrial, correct?
I don't know what the discussion was 2 years ago when this was rezoned to industrial. When we met with Mr. Edwards a month or so ago for the sketch plan pre-application meeting, we did ask why it was industrial, because the use he described was exactly what was just described now, that it was, a commercial enterprise. And we said, this sounds commercial. Why are you industrial? And as he talked more about the proposed additional buildings, there was discussion of commercial painting of airplane parts, and that was probably what would have kicked it into light industrial. So it would certainly have been better for the Edwards family if commercial zoning had been obtained at that time, possibly with a conditional use to allow for slightly more intensive uses. We can't really go back in time. I don't know what the discussions were 2 years ago. So, and I've looked at the staff report, we've looked at the minutes, they're included in your packet. I've looked at the minutes of both the planning board and board of commissioners, and there really was no discussion of the intent or why industrial was chosen. But certainly, it does seem like commercial might have fit the majority of the operations that are planned for the site. And if that were the case, commercial zoning, I mean, it's a 30-foot buffer requirement, so.
Yep, that's a big deal. So, at present, their buffer requirement is what?
150 where it touches the blue.
Yep.
And 25 where red touches red.
Which is two sides. So really the variance is only on
The blue side.
the blue side.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the sketch plan. Yeah, because they're proposing 25 feet on Mill Pond, 25 feet on Ebenezer, and 25 feet all around. So proposing industrial buffers, industrial to industrial buffers. And if the parcel to the east and south, if that flag lot were zoned industrial, that would be perfectly appropriate. There would be we would not be here tonight.
Would
But because
staff approve it if they requested it?
Well, there would be no variance. I mean, the site plan.
I'm saying, would staff approve the industrial zoning if they requested it?
Staff don't approve that. Staff don't make that decision.
Well, I'm
Staff make-
saying, would y'all recommend approval?
We would
for-
have to see the application and the proposed use.
All right, is there any further questions? All right, I'll call for a motion.
Motion to deny.
Have a motion to deny. Is there a second? Motion dies. Call for a new motion. Give me another motion.
Trying to think of a way that makes this work while protecting the rest of the property. Currently, right now, what we see on the screen is what's proposed. There's full half of the property on that southern side, right? There's no buildings proposed.
Correct.
To the east, if I got north and south correct, there's a 60-foot strip that's zoned residential. Within that 60 feet, that would be, again, I'm just trying to think of a way that we could make something, because I understand, but I do understand, again, this 300-foot buffer issue on a smaller parcel like this. I mean, could we recommend a variance just in
Reduce the
one
buffer.
specific spot and stop it, at that, only a certain depth back from the frontage? And
I mean-
that way they would still have to pursue it again in the future if they needed to expand that use in the back. I'm just asking from the standpoint of that's.
I mean, I guess that's a question for her, if that would be a valid compromise.
Let me look at the dimensions for a second here.
So you're saying 25 feet remain on the west,
See,
north,
they need it all to get the building that they're
but then
on there.
I guess
Okay.
what I'm seeing on the side,
not
it didn't seem
granting a
like-
25-foot buffer, you're saying granting a,
Well, I guess 25 maybe on the front, the eastern side down to, whatever they need it for to make the current plan work that we're looking at.
I got you.
And then leave the remainder
I see what you're saying.
without the buffer variance until such time as there's something else, right? So then that way it's protecting the majority of that property to the south if it is continuing to be residential.
So we get as much buffer as possible and they
Because there
get what
can't
they
be a
want.
home in that 60 feet,
Yeah,
right?
right.
Right, there can't be a home in the future unless it's combined with something in the future. So it's going to become a right of way or something. And I know we don't know their plan, but it does seem logical that like that side could have a reduced buffer to
Yeah.
it.
Agreed.
So I guess what you're saying is the property is 617 feet deep on the railroad side or the western side of the property. So if we left the 300-foot buffer in place to the south, adjacent to that residentially blue zone property,
Right.
and then just develop the front portion, But the side, could we, what can we do about that? Can we have the 25-foot buffer, recognizing the fact that, the 25-foot buffer plus the 60-foot strip?
I guess we'll find out.
I guess I still have the question, if we're not manufacturing anything there, why don't we request a commercial zoning and then we only got a 35-foot buffer?
Well,
I guess that's,
I wasn't part of that whole,
I mean, it would just make a lot
ordeal.
of problems go away unless you're planning on doing some manufacturing there. If you're just gonna get garage doors shipped in, assemble them and sell them, you don't really need to be industrial, if that's what you're gonna do.
well, unfortunately, the owner of the property is not in the country. He had a conflict.
So did I understand you to say you would be willing to do the 300-foot across the back if you could get to 25 feet down the east side?
I think that we could make that work. And then at such time when the adjacent parcel number 2 comes in and rezones or does whatever it is that he is going to do, then we could come back and possibly reduce it, or
It's premature, this whole thing. We should just deny it and then let him come back when the other guy buys that piece of property.
well, he currently owns, the owner of that property. As I said, I have a letter. I have a letter from him that states that
We don't
he
know
has
that
no
the county's gonna approve that
They're not
zoning
gonna go with
request, so.
that. They're not going with that.
Okay.
It's just pie in
All
the
right,
sky.
so, any further discussion? Can I get a motion, please, for the love of God?
I'll make a motion to approve the buffer variance on the eastern property line and deny the buffer variance on the southern property line.
All right, I have a motion to approve. Any discussion on this motion? Any questions? Call.
So where you're making the motion is up top where the little blue strip is.
Basically,
25-foot.
The right side.
25 on the entire east side, so the drive and access would work.
Okay,
And then wherever 300 feet deep back from the rear property line, that buffer still holds, and then it'll go transition to the 25-foot buffer along that eastern side.
Yeah, just go straight across.
Yeah, so see here where the cursor's moving, this is 300 feet from the rear, from the south. So there is a proposed, I think, building there, but that's not part of the first phase of construction. Is that a building? That's a building, right?
No, that right there is the proposed septic.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
Field area, which was part of the application as well, the soils test that showed that really the only place we could really put something
Okay.
in
That would be
general
for the
area.
Department of Public Health. Okay, so this line that Ms. Linda submitted in the sketch plan shows us what 300-foot buffers would do, but where I'm moving the cursor here, that's 300 foot on the southern boundary.
Yep.
If that line came across. So there's no plans potentially to develop there.
Not right now, there's an existing well that's there,
Yeah.
so of course we would have to, run a line for the well. It's already been refurbished and ready to go, so.
And Springfield has declined service, so it would be
That is
relying
correct.
on a private well and septic.
All right, I have a motion on the floor. Clear. Call for a second.
I'll second.
Second, all those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries 4-1. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
And next is Ms. Linda Sims as agent for K&M Effingham Properties LLC. Request approval of a sketch plan located at 1204 Mill Pond Road, Zone I-1, the 5th District, action overhead door warehouses. I think we've been over the sketch plan. Are there any questions, comments from staff? Anyone? Call for a motion.
We'll expect will you plan to submit a revised sketch plan in time for the
We could
commissioners
certainly
meeting?
do an updated sketch plan that shows that 300-foot line all the way across.
Okay.
So we
Alright.
deny the sketch plan and she'll submit one to the commissioners?
Yeah, that's
revised?
fine.
If needed, sure.
Or you could,
Or you could
just-
approve it, you could approve it with the noted
condition-
changes.
Yeah.
and we'll make sure that we have that
I
before the
like that
commissioners
choice
meeting.
better.
All right, I call for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the sketch plan with the sketch plan being amended to meet the previous recommended variance.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Second, Mr. Zipper. All those in favor? Any opposed? 4-1, motion carries. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Item 14 is sketch plan for Brett Bennett as agent for Greenland Developers, Inc. Request approval of a sketch plan for Goshen Extension Apartments located off Goshen Commercial Park Drive, Zone B2, 5th District. Anybody need a bathroom break right now?
That's fine.
Yes, sir.
Brett Bennett, as you said, Brett Bennett, Greenland Developers. We purchased this property about 6 months ago, back in November, I believe.
If I could interrupt you real quick, I'd pay attention to the developer, and then we'll need to abstain from this.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna help.
Your vice chair.
Yeah, I'm gonna vice chair it.
Yeah. So Brett Bennett, Greenland Developers, we purchased this property about 6 months ago. It was already zoned B2. We planned a multifamily project there. It was, like I said, it was already zoned, so that use was allowed by right. We were well underway with our planning process when the county adopted and approved a moratorium for, I think, 90 days or so for multifamily projects in B2. That has since been replaced by a new ordinance, and we are now moving forward with our sketch plan approval. Alec Metzger is here for EMC Engineering and can kind of go over some of the technical aspects of the project.
Very good. You're back, Mr. Metzger. You're back.
Hey again, Alec Metzger with EMC Engineering. So it's about 34 acres is Zone B2, and what the sketch plan that we've provided shows is 408 apartment units, so that translates into 34 buildings. The density is about 11.8 units per acre, and more than 50% of the property will be left in green space because of large isolated wetland that's on the project. So parking is provided for the apartments. The required buffers of 20 feet and 15 feet are shown around the property depending on what kind of different zoning they're backed up to. Water and sewer is available from the county. Access will be provided from a county road, Goshen Commercial Park Drive. The roads and parking inside the apartment complex will be private. Sidewalks and streetlights will be provided. Amenities such as a dog park, playground, community building, and pool are shown on the sketch plan. I believe it is. So this is kind of right behind the existing Goshen Crossing apartments. So actually, this development doesn't get any closer to the, I guess, the north property line where the residential people are. There's a large piece in there that's going to be undeveloped. So this proposed apartment complex is no closer really than any of the buildings that's out there now. It's going to be probably about 700 feet or so from the building to the back property line, and about 900 feet between closest apartment building to closest residential building on that side.
Yeah, from the aerial view, I can see that there is an apartment complexes back there, right
Yes,
there
sir.
on Highway 21, okay.
Yes, that's Goshen Crossing. That was the second phase. There was phase 1 and phase 2 of those.
Okay.
So it's basically directly behind that. It won't be any closer to the residential properties than what's there now. It's shown on the sketch.
I believe that's it. I'd be glad to answer any questions you might have.
All right. Any questions from the board? Teresa, do you want to add anything?
No, just to point out, I'll go to the zoning slide, that as we know, there's industrial to the northeast there. The red is industrial. That's a warehouse site, and there is a required 300-foot buffer there with berm, and that's under construction by the looks of it. So between the warehouse site up here to the northeast and this proposed development, there is an extensive buffer built in on the adjacent property. And in fact, when I was out there today, and this is actually a sketch plan from the warehouse development project, and just showing that they have designed and built, designed and planned for a 300-foot buffer wherever this industrial property touches residential property, and even because the residential property was there. So it has continued around. So there is extensive buffering already in construction, under construction. And there it is. There's the warehouse. But just as I drove down the road there, see the arrow, like it looks like there's dirt maybe for the industrial site being stored there. Is that what it is? No? I was just wondering.
No, that was some stockpiled material, and that'll be probably used on the apartment complex site.
Yeah, just wondering. Yeah.
Ms. Concanon, is this sketch plans, are they open for public hearing?
Sketch plans are not usually public hearings, no.
I didn't think so. Well, it looks like he's covered all the bases. I mean, with all the setbacks and everything, and there is gonna be a 300-foot setback on the, I guess that's the eastern side?
Yeah. North and east.
Is that right, Alec?
On the adjacent property. Yeah, if you see the slide, this is the warehouse development. So I was just pointing out that there is a planned and under construction 300-foot buffer with berm that will separate it from the warehouse site.
Our site this is the existing apartment complex, and our site is
Yeah.
right in here.
We got you.
All of this.
And this has one access point on the Goshen Commercial Park Drive, which then feeds into 21 off of Goshen, correct?
Just gonna have one way in and out?
Yeah, that's why it's not gonna connect to.
Well, I guess we should hear from the public then, if this gentleman wants to speak. Alex? Yes.
Hey, I'm Malcolm Smith. I live at 123 Lewis Drive, which is in the subdivision right behind there, where there's a Zia Avenue that's connected to right here to this point of this. I have no problem as long as this is wetlands, which is wetlands in there, because that's what helps drain our subdivision. And as long as they don't hook into Zia Avenue, I have no problem with this. Are y'all gonna hook into that? Well, that's fine. I have no problem with this. 'Cause as long as we was up here just a few months ago trying to make sure we didn't have that, car lot.
I remember.
And, luckily, y'all disapproved it, and then the county did too. But the thing is, we just don't want our subdivision no more mess up, because that's partly of what helps drain our subdivision. Thank you.
Thank you. Come forward, ma'am.
My name is Margaret Kelly, and I own a commercial building on Goshen Commercial Park Drive. I want to know who holds the deed for that road right now?
Now, that would be a question I don't know if Ms. Teresa knows. Is that a county road?
It is not a county road.
It is not a county road.
It is not a county road, no. It is shown as proposed right-of-way on a number of older plats from when this commercial park was being developed. but it is not county-owned or maintained at this time.
So I want to know who's going to maintain this road when we've got another 408 units with all these cars coming on it? And they won't go out to 21. They're going to come out to Goshen Extension, which has been messed up by the commercial project that's going on. So now we've got 2 roads that are going to get messed up. I want to know who's going to take care of this.
Okay, well, maybe Mr. Alex will give us an answer. Eric, you want to come forward?
It's gonna be hard to do without the map. Again, this is Eric Larson, county engineer.
Which slide?
Correct me on the names. Goshen Commercial Drive
Is the
Park, the road that, I have to get up here to the map, I can't see. County has right-of-way for this road to this point,
Yep,
and we maintain it.
yep.
That is private and goes into that apartment complex. We do not maintain that. This strip of land is dedicated to us by plat. We have never accepted a deed, and this project will build this road from here to their development entrance, and we will assume responsibility for maintenance of the road after the fact from here to here only.
Wait, show me on this map. Where are you going to go again?
Teresa, does your cursor show up on all screens or just that one?
it is. I see it.
Am I correct?
Right, so you're gonna go in right there.
You're gonna build that?
We're going to accept that other road, Goshen Commercial Park Drive, is the one that's never been.
This has been dedicated to us by deed or by plat. We've never accepted it. We're in the process of doing that now. And then when they build this piece, we will maintain it same fashion.
And then that'll dump out onto Goshen Road
Goshen Road
Extension?
which is ours, and we do own and maintain that. Yes, sir.
Ocean Road Extension.
So at the end of the day, the county will own the road going in?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Does that help, Margaret?
Well, I wasn't sure because he said he was gonna go in on here. This is right there. You're gonna go in here?
We're gonna own and maintain to this point.
Oh, okay.
I've got one on Zoom that also wants to ask a question.
Okay, so I've got one person now on the Zoom that's going to ask a question.
Can you hear me okay?
I can.
Okay, good. My name is Megan LoCicero, and I live at 146 Azalea Avenue, which is the last house on the right. And we just wanted to know, do you plan on building, or do you plan on creating a road that extends from Azalea out towards the apartments, or is there only going to be one entrance?
Will you guys leave the wetlands intact, is what we're asking.
Okay. So the question is, on Azalea Road, will there be egress from that, Alex?
So no connection to Azalea is proposed. So right now, what we're showing is about, so the back of the lots, the closest residential lot over there would be about 700 feet of undeveloped property. So the apartments that are there now, they're basically lining up with those. So if you can't see or hear those, then you're not gonna see and hear these other ones.
Okay,
Okay, that's all I needed to know. Thank you.
very good. Any other questions or concerns? Only get one. Oh, okay. You get two
Margaret
tonight.
Kelly again.
Okay.
The apartments that are currently there are federally subsidized. Are these gonna be federally subsidized also?
Okay, are they gonna be federally subsidized apartments?
I don't think those are either, but.
All of those apartments are, yes. Oh, yeah.
No, they're not planning on, and I think Brett said he didn't think those were the
The answer's
existing
no.
ones either.
Any other
Totally
questions?
different process. I just want to jump in. Goshen Crossing 1 and 2 are low-income housing tax credit developments, and that requires application to the Department of Community Affairs, and this is a completely different track. I mean, that's not to say that you might not offer affordable rents to all incomes, but it's not, it's a totally different type of development.
And just for a point of clarification on the apartments that are there, as Teresa said, tax credit housing, lower income, median income, it's not, matter of fact, in those projects, federal subsidies are prohibited, so they cannot be Section 8 homes, but they are income-based housing. Not our project, but the existing project.
Any other concerns?
One question. My name's Becca Scouten. I live on Lewis Drive too. My question is, just because I love the plan, that there is obviously a lot of room in between our neighborhood, but I also hear you using words like presently we are proposing, which makes me think that maybe in the future, do you have plans to build like a third wing? Because I know a lot of, even just developments of housing, it might be 250 houses to begin with, but they have phase 2, phase 3, phase 4. So my question to you, the developer today, is this the only phase and you are not building any more because of wetlands, or would there be a proposed phase 2? Okay.
So the property is limited by density of what you can put on it. So what we're doing is showing the maximum density of 408 units. So we can't put any more, so even if we wanted to.
Okay. All right. I'm going to close the floor now for public comment.
Oh, I do want my phone back.
Is there any other questions or concerns from our board? If not, I'm going to call for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve with staff
I've
recommendation.
got a motion for approval with Mr. Zipper. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a second from Mr. Smith. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you all very much. Mr. Burns, I'm going to let you adjourn the meeting.
Is there any more business to come before this board tonight?
Yes, y'all need to turn that up, the air conditioner 2 notches.
Get some TV screens up front.
We're hoping it make y'all, thank y'all. All right, meeting adjourned.
Terrible.